So hello and welcome to the showgrounds, home of Sligo Rovers. I'm Connor Dickinson. I'm a guest here, needs no introduction. Just shy of 700 career appearances for teams such as Millwall, Cardiff and Birmingham. Current Sligo Rovers manager here for about a month now. It's Darren Purse. How are you,
How's
Darren?
it going, Con? You okay?
Not too bad.
All good, mate. All good.
How are things? How's stuff with the club going at the minute?
It's been a bit of a baptism of fire. It's been a manic 4 weeks. You know, sort of walked in the building. Transfer sort of deadline was like 2 days away, so you're trying to get a couple of deals done. Lost a couple of players within them couple of days as well, so that wasn't ideal. So yeah, it's been a real baptism of fire, and but loved every minute of it. You know, the actual games, the players have really grown over the last 5 games that we've been in. Some real positive performances, and listen, I'm enjoying every minute of it, and it's hopefully we give ourselves the best possible chance to stand in the division.
What initially attracted you to a club like this? You probably mentioned it before, and I know there's the link between Ollie Denham and Luke Pearce, just to name a couple who Cardiff had initially sent on loan. It's permanent. Did that play a part in it? Have Cardiff and Sligo got a good link with each other?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say they got a good link. I came over and watched a couple of games. I came over and watched Luke Pearce play when he played for Sligo when he was on loan. So I knew a little bit about the football club, and yeah, I was looking to get into first team management. I've done under 21s and under 18s for probably 6-7 years. I think for me, I'd sort of gained that little bit of experience, made no mistakes, even though I'm still making mistakes, you know, but you learn from them. But I've made mistakes, and I was ready. At my time. I was ready. I'd done a year up, or close to a year up with Omar Reza at Cardiff, in his first team staff there. I think once you step from that under 21s, where it's a development platform, into the first team environment where you're playing for 3 points every week, it sort of gets the loins going a little bit. It's a different mentality. It's a different type of football, and and obviously when the opportunity came up. Just for initially, just a fleeting conversation. Someone rang me, a good friend of mine, Jerry Cassidy, rang me from over in Ireland and said, Sligo Rovers looking for a new manager. And he said, he went, do you recommend anyone? I said, me? And he was like, you wouldn't go for that, would you? And it just went from there, really. So when I looked at what Sligo were and as a football club, it probably ticked a lot of boxes for myself. I think you know what you are as a person. I'm a manager rather than a coach, and I think walking into Sligo with the board and that sort of stuff, the actual club suits everything that I'm about as a manager. So it's a brilliant opportunity. I'm loving every minute of it for the first 4 weeks, and hopefully it continues.
And quickly, just before we talk about your career that you've been so lucky to have. You brought players such as Luke Young, Kane Woolery. What do you say to them? Because obviously we need massive experience here as well with such a young squad, and I know the academy is very close to the first team and things like that. How do you convince someone like Luke Young, who was still a great player and was good for Cheltenham last season, how do you convince them to say, can you come in and help us out here?
Well, I think it helps that I knew him from a young age. He's probably doing what myself and Warren Feeney did at Plymouth 15 years ago, you know, when Plymouth were bottom of the league, 9 points adrift, and we managed to keep them in the division. People would have probably said the same to me, leaving Millwall and going to Plymouth at that moment in time, and said, what are you doing, you know? People might say the same for Youngie. Youngie was out of contract. He'd had 1 or 2 offers from England that weren't quite right. We'd been speaking for about a week or so, and I think he quite liked the fact of A, he was working with someone that he knew, but B, I think sometimes when you're a player, especially when you've had a career like sort of Youngie's had, and Kane to a certain degree, you know, have had really good careers. Sometimes you need something to fight for and to play for.
Still have that
nobody really wants to go into a side that's mid-table. You know, if he came over to Ireland and he was playing for, I don't know who you'd say, like maybe a Galway or somewhere like that, where probably mid-table. Are they going to get into Europe? Who knows? I mean, are they going to get relegated? I think this one you can really get your teeth into, and you can affect the dressing room because it's a young dressing room and you can affect it. So from that point of view, it's I could see why they've come.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did take some convincing with them, and I'm delighted that both of them have come and joined because they're brilliant additions to the squad.
Yeah, two massive additions. Now we're going to look towards the career you've had, and I asked this with Stephen Reed. What was the first? It's probably a cliche question, but what was the first moment where you realised it could be as a kid, it could be as a teenager, where you thought, actually, I can take this football thing a bit more seriously?
It was quite late on for me, I'd say, because up until I was 16, I played for a really good Sunday League side, played for my county, played for the district, all that sort of stuff, you know. And it was probably, I wanted to stay on at school. I was 16, did really well in my GCSEs, wanted to be a pilot.
Oh, wow.
You know, all through school, wanted to be a pilot. But I was quite good at football. I was probably bigger, more physical than the players that I was playing against at that moment in time. And yeah, at Orient, to be fair to them, I wasn't going to sign a scholarship. I got offered 3 or 4 scholarships from a few of the London clubs, and I wasn't going to sign a scholarship. It's a bit different to nowadays. Everybody's on 2-year rolling contracts and stuff, where I was just flitting around. I was training Millwall one week, Arsenal the next week, and my dad was a massive influence on my career from that point of view, because he didn't allow me to say sign School of Excellence forms. I just went around and trained and did that. And then at 16, I was going to start at school, got my GCSE results and stuff. But Orient said, look, we won't sign you as a scholar. We'll just give you a pro contract as soon as you turn 17. So what I was doing, I was going in and training with them every day, training with the first team, playing for the reserves, playing for the under 18s. And as soon as I turned 17 in the February, signed my contract and made me debut 3 days later.
Wow.
It's probably something that wouldn't happen nowadays, because you have to be signed under contract with football clubs. So it's probably a random sort of way of going around it, but it was right and it was perfect for me at that moment in time. And
you mentioned Sunday League. Am I right in saying Lee Boyer played for your Sunday League team as well?
My Sunday League team was a team called Simrab, who are quite well known around the club. That's what people like John Terry, Ashley Cole, Ledley King, some real good footballers. Muzzy is it, you know what I mean? Kenny is it, his younger brother. They all came through Simrab, and they was all around probably them 2 or 3 years. So we all sort of grew up together, sort of knowing each other. We'd go on tours we'd go to Southport and play in the Southport Isle of Wight tournaments during the summer, and we'd win a lot of them because we were a really good side. And I think it was like every single person from my Simrab team signed a scholarship somewhere or went into a professional football club at 16. So it showed you the sort of standard of player. Michael Black was another one who went at a half-decent career at Arsenal and stuff like that. Jason Tinder was in my my Sunday League. Me and Jason, up until we were probably 14, 15, were centre forwards together. We'd score loads of goals, you know what I mean? So from that point of view, there was a lot of players that came through the system and came through Simrab. But yeah, it's a really good football club, and like the people that ran it. My dad was he was chairman for a few years. He was just good people that wanted young players to go and do well.
I feel very bad for the opposition having to come up when they realised.
Listen, we were a good team, mate. We were a good team, and the teams that we would play against. Trying to think who Frank Lampard used to play for. A team in Essex anyway, and we'd go over and play against them. And you'd have Lee Bowyer and Frank Lampard playing against each other as young midfielders. So I think when you're playing against that standard of individual and that standard of player all the time, you're going to improve. And it was a good standard of football.
Yeah, really was. Signed for Leyton Orient. You went to Oxford as well for about £100,000, it says. And then you were signed by Birmingham, deal plus Kevin Francis. And your first notable moment of the Blues was coming on, well, there could be another notable moment, but it was coming on against Watford in the playoffs after David Holdsworth was sent off, and you converted the penalty in that shootout. Even though it ended in defeat, what's it like coming on in a game of that significance at such a relatively young age at that point?
I think I look back on your playing career, and you probably don't appreciate it enough when you probably have to come out of football to come back into it a little bit to then start appreciating what you were doing at that moment in time. You know, I think you look at the Premier League and the Championship and that now. The standard of players and the standard of football's quality. The money that people earn nowadays is astronomical, you know. And I think when you're involved in that, in that little bubble, you don't realise and recognise that what you were doing as a player, you know. So it was just every day. You know, I was just doing a job that I loved, and it did become a job. You know, people say they love their football. I love football, but it's a job, and you have to treat it like a job. It's never personal with everything that goes on. But coming on, to be fair, you reminded me. I don't remember coming on.
Oh, do you know?
I remember just playing in the game. You know,
oh wow!
If I came on then. Yeah, but they were good. Obviously, we lost 3 playoffs on the spin. Got to the semi-finals of every single playoff, and lost 3. A couple of them on penalties, and it makes it even sweeter when you do get promoted at the fourth time of asking.
And another special moment for Birmingham, 2001 League Cup final against Liverpool. You scored the penalty to send the game to extra time. What was it like seeing? Because I've seen the clip. You run to that sea of Birmingham fans there. What do you almost feel? It's like an out of body experience in a sense. You see the Blues fans celebrating like that. How did it feel scoring that sort of goal?
A little bit surreal. You know, I just like I said, I don't think when you're in that moment you don't appreciate it enough. No. You know, I look back and you'll sit and watch the Carabao Cup final now or the FA Cup final. You know, I was lucky enough to be involved in both, but. And you've been involved and played in it, and you look at it and you think, wow. But when you're in there as a player, you're just going and doing your job. Yeah. You know, so from that point of view, it didn't feel any different. The penalty didn't feel any different. Going up and celebrating, I think I was going to take my shirt off, but like little sort of things that go through your mind in their mad moments. Yeah. But listen, to celebrating and to score in a cup final is, I think, most young boys' dreams, and I've managed to do that, and it lives long in the memory.
And obviously Liverpool did go on to win 5-4 on penalties, and it was probably a first real taste of heartbreak. Did it necessarily feel like, because you scored in that game, did it feel worse on you, the defeat, or did you just think, respect to Birmingham, you were probably never tipped to be favourites to beat Liverpool? Did it still hurt to process that, and do you use that experience for these younger players as well who might be coming through? Do you use that heartbreak to motivate them in a sense?
I wouldn't say that was heartbreak for us, because even though everybody thought we were underdogs, we thought we could go and win the game, and I think the way we played on the day suggested that we could go and win the game. You know, we were the boys were class. That little group of players that we had, at Birmingham were amazing. You know, like the team bonding that we had. I wouldn't say we had any sort of stars and world beaters in that group, but we were just a good, honest bunch of lads that called it out when we needed to call it out, and worked really hard for each other. So from that point of view, we thought we had a real good chance of winning. I don't think that was heartbreak for us, because we'd give such a good account of ourselves. Were we disappointed we didn't win? Yes, but I think we use that probably as a bit more of a motivation to try and hopefully go and get promoted in the. I don't think it was that year. The year after, I think we got promoted. But we use that as a bit of a motivation. The 2 or the 3 playoff semi-finals when we lost on penalties and stuff, they were heartbreaking. Yeah. Because you're expected to go and win. We were probably favourites for most of them games, you know, and they're the ones that really hurt you, because for one reason or another, whether you didn't play too well or maybe didn't get the rub of the green with a little bit of luck or something like that, they're the things that hurt you, because you're probably expected to win the game rather than sort of hoping.
Yeah. And we go to the season after, and you had a pretty bizarre incident in training just before the season started. Am I right in saying Trevor Francis broke your wrist with a training ground shot?
I don't know when that was. I don't know if it was pre-season or not, but Trevor was an exceptional footballer, even at sort of 40 odd years of age as a manager. He'd join in training most days and be the best player. Yeah. So we'd go around and try and stop him. You know what I mean? And as we were, you'd try and kick him and stuff like that, trying to stop him. And by hook or by crook, you'd try and stop him from scoring. And he's bent this. I remember it. Bent the shot and it's going in the bottom corner. And to stop him scoring, I just dived and tipped it around the post. I wasn't in goal or anything, but I just dived and tipped it around the post. But as soon as I'd done it, I just felt a real sharp pain in the wrist, and just went running straight down to the physio. And I don't know if you'd probably play with it nowadays, whether they'd allow you to play with it. But I was out for 6 weeks with it, so it became a stupid thing to do. So after that, he sort of started to be a little bit more chilled with what he did when he was in training. But to break your wrist in training and miss a lot of football was not ideal.
And how do you process being out with an injury for some time, and how do you guide these young players? Because I know there's a couple injuries at Sligo. How do you guide these players to keep focused and there is light at the end of the tunnel and you will come out of this injury. How do you stay motivated in that sense during that?
I think the biggest thing for me at that moment in time was I knew what I was as a player. I was probably 23 years of age. I knew I had to probably be a bit more physical than what I was. And I used the 6-8 weeks to go and really sort of pump the gym, go and sort of build yourself up and come back sort of a different physical profile a little bit. And I say the same to the younger players. Like we've got Conor Reynolds and Jadek Kiki out at the moment, have been out for most of the season. It's like, how do you obviously deal with the disappointment of it? You're going to be out for a long period of time, but how can I, when I come back, be in a better physical state and a better physical player when I do come back? Some people grasp it. Some people go and say, do you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure my diet's right and come back better. Some people don't. Some people just go through the motions, and invariably the ones that go through the motions don't have that much of a career, you know. And I think you have to have that mentality and that drive to push yourself and be better every day. And if you've got that, then you've got a chance.
100%. Adrian Mutu, Chelsea striker. Obviously a very bizarre situation, and you labelled it as nothing really, just a misunderstanding. We know what happened in the dressing room, but what happened from your perspective? How did
Nothing
you
happened in the dressing room.
Was there not?
Yeah, it's just he came out and just said, when you go out and play a game before, it's probably a little bit different now because there's a lot more cameras around and stuff like that. You try and win the game by hook or by crook. You know what I mean? And if it meant like making a professional foul, that's part of the dark arts of the game. I mean, Adrian Mutu was one of the probably dark arts. You know what I mean? You get up, you have a little bit of a rough and a tumble and stuff like that. You're treading these toes. You just try and wind people up, and I think we did wind him up that day. And I don't remember it that well. I remember him coming out and calling me some names in the paper next day. I don't care. You know what I mean? It's like football's. I've got thick skin. Football's never personal. It's always professional. You know. But I don't remember it that way because I'd do it most weekends. You know what I mean? I would try and wind people up. I would try and get into people. I think Stan Collymore was the other one. I think he comes out in his autobiography and says it. I think I was spraying water him at half time to try and sort of put him off his game. You're trying to win a football match, and that's the person that I was and the player that I was. Was I ever the best player? No. You know what I mean? But so I had to use all the tricks in my arsenal to try and be the best player that I can. Arsenal are the kings of it at the moment.
Oh yeah.
You know? They're brilliant at it. You know, the dark arts of killing the game when you need to, making good fouls, getting under people's skin. You have to have it if you want to be a winner. And I think that mentality and that winner's mentality I had as a player, still got it as a manager, but as a player, probably helped me get the career that I probably had.
Yeah, I personally, I'm all for that sort of stuff. Obviously spent time with Wednesday, Millwall, Argyle, Vale, and you did spend 2 spells in Finland, and I'm curious to know, was that purely obviously you went at the start of your career and then the end of your career, was it a development thing? Did you like the country so much you thought you'd come back, and is it anywhere you'd probably see yourself, I could go over and manage there someday? Were you a fan of the country?
I would say I was a fan of the country. It got to the end of the season, my first season, after I made my debut, obviously made my debut in February, I was 17, and basically the club said, look, rather than have a summer, the best thing for me was go, and it was out, obviously there wasn't transfer windows then, was to obviously leave in the May, as soon as the season finished, fly over to Finland, May, June, carry on playing, go and play 8-10 games in the Finnish league, and then come back, and then you're straight into pre-season. For me, it made a lot of sense. So I went and did that. It was an English coach over there. So from that point of view, it was the right time for me to do that. Did I know a lot about Finnish football? No. But I learned a lot from being away from home. Obviously doing what I did the last few years, being loans manager and stuff, it's a key part of it. You know, fending for yourself, making sure you're looking after yourself, eating right while you're away. So little bits like that were good. And then I got to my end of my career, I was 36 at Port Vale, just got promoted to League Two. Mickey Adams pulled me into his office and said, Percy, I'm not taking you with me to League One, your legs are gone. Which is hard to hear sometimes, but it was truth, you know what I mean? Look back on it now, my legs were going at that age, at that time. And I got a phone call from a friend of mine who over in Finland, and they just said, look, we've got 3 months of the season left, got an opportunity to try and, they were fighting for trying to get into the European places. Do you fancy coming over for the last 3 months? And it was just a bit of a no-brainer for me. I could have hung around and maybe nicked a move over here, but I was quite intrigued about what it was like. Since then I've been offered a job over there at EF Murrayhelm, which is the team. But it wasn't quite right for me at that moment in time. But it's a fantastic little football club, and they're in a relegation fight themselves in the moment over there. So hopefully they get out of it.
Yeah. And then you spent time in non-league football. Is that? And obviously we all know non-league football. The fans are much more closer. It's fans feel more connected, and players are more connected with everyone. Is that a good experience? Is it a different experience from playing for Birmingham, being at Wembley?
It's a different experience for sure. You hear everything in non-league football. When there's 80,000 people, you don't hear anything. You just concentrate on the game. When there's 400 people, it's a bit different because you hear everything. You know what I mean? Got called all names under the sun. But I just wanted to play as long as I could. Everybody said to me, I don't know if it's affected my management or coaching career a little bit, because when I was left Port Vale, Mickey Allen's offered me the under-21s job at Port Vale, and it just wasn't right for me at that moment in time. I just wanted to carry on playing, so I carried on playing non-league football for the next 5 years. My last game I was 42 years of age, and I'm quite proud of that a little bit. It gave me a good insight into the mentality of, say, non-league players a little bit. Players that have got a job and they have to go work and stuff like that. So that side of it, probably a little bit of a lack of professionalism at the time. All good players and probably could have made it, but that professionalism and that mentality is probably not what kept them back, because it was all good players. But I just wanted to play for as long as I could. And that's why non-league football was good for me from that point of view. You know what I mean? Little things like you'd play in front of a few hundred people, and I always remember I was playing at home for Cheshire, and some random bloke was like, I'm going to have you in the bar afterwards first. You told my daughter to F off and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, I don't know who your daughter is, mate. So you're having the game's going on, you're having a conversation with this bloke, saying, what are you on about? But then you go see him in the bar, you go up and see him in the bar, say, what are you on about? He went, oh no, it weren't you, it was somebody else. You're like, but that just sums up non-league football a little bit.
It does,
so it was an experience, and I really enjoyed it.
Obviously, it'd be rude not to mention your 2 under-21 caps for England. It was France and South Africa. It's a cliche question. I think everyone's asked it. How proud of a moment was that for yourself? Did you appreciate it much back then? Like you said, you didn't really do much with your club, but do you look back on that with pride? Very proud, but I definitely didn't appreciate it enough. You know, you look at players nowadays that have really good under-21 careers, but don't go on and progress in the game. I think that the thing that I'm most proud is I had that little snippet of under-21s, playing for England under-21s. I always remember a lad called Bernie Dixon, who was the chief scout at Orient, and he always said to me, Dad, because up until 14 I was a centre forward, scored loads of goals. And he went, look, your boy's he'll play for centre forward for Barnsley, which is no derogatory, not being derogatory to Barnsley, but he said he'll play centre forward for Barnsley, or I'll play centre half for England. I think I was really unlucky not to get an England cap. I think I had a sort of really nasty ankle injury that I was in and around the England sort of. I think there was a lot of talk about me maybe being in England squads and stuff like that. Just before, obviously, when there was a lot of talk about me going to Arsenal and stuff, and and that was I got injured, and it sort of put my career back a little bit, and it didn't quite materialise. But I think when I was that moment, 24, 25, I was probably playing my best football, and I think if I hadn't got the injury, I hate people, there could have been a possibility of a full England cap. But it is what it is. I don't lose any sleep over that. Really proud to sing the national anthem, play for England, represent your country, and we move on. You played under a series of managers: Trevor Francis, Steve Bruce, and Brian Laws. You managed my hometown club, Burnley. Which manager did you have the best relationship, footballing wise, and on a personal level, man to man?
Personal, Trevor Francis for sure.
Yeah.
Him and his wife Helen were fantastic people. You know, that personal touch from them. I remember the first time I met them, we went out for dinner before I signed. They were class people. Yeah. You know, and so from that point of view, him definitely personally. Professionally, Brucey was very good at what he did. But I've always said that the best manager was Dennis Smith when I was at Oxford. Just because I looked at the squad of players we had there, probably his budget for the division they were in, and we overachieved for the couple of years I was there. but just through a team spirit, building that sort of team bonding, he was an exceptional man. And I've got a lot of time for him. I've bumped into him a few times over the years, and I've got a lot of time for him. He's a top man. And
it's purely me being from a Burnley perspective now. I was intrigued to find out you and Andy Cole had a little thing. You were sent off for what was deemed to be a dangerous tackle.
Definitely a bad tackle.
Yeah, and he came out and called you a muppet. Yeah, straight. Dave Jones.
There's a thing coming on. Mutu, bloody. What's his face? It is what it is. It was a bad tackle. I can honestly say I've never gone into a tackle, gone in to hurt anyone. You know what I mean? I was always full-blooded, wanting to win the ball. Sometimes you're late. Sometimes you don't quite get there, and that was one of them moments. I think I give him like stitches in his shin. But I got sent off and obviously went down the tunnel, and I didn't think anything of it. Went into the dressing room at Burnley, sat there, you're pissed off because you've just been sent off, you've let your teammates down. But apparently he was all kicking off outside, he wanted to fight me and everything. But I didn't know anything about what was going on. You know, I didn't know anything. I was just sitting there, I think I was sitting in the changing room with a kit man just talking. Because usually they said like somebody comes down into the changing room with you. But apparently it was all kicking off. I didn't know anything about it until afterwards it came out in the press. It's what it is. It's his opinion. I don't really give a monkeys about what he says. To be fair, it is what it is. So yeah, but that's football. You know what I mean? Yeah. People have their opinions and they get on with it. Some people voice it in public. Some people keep them to themselves. It's up to them what they want to do.
Then the last question: what was the hardest player you came up against?
Hardest or toughest? Like as in the hardest to play. So obviously the toughest, you got people like bloody John Hartson. You know what I mean? I remember just smashing my elbow in the halfway line at Birmingham and busting my nose. Duncan Ferguson was another one. Yeah. You know, real tough. But I used to love playing against them sort of players because you knew what you were up against. You knew you were going in for a battle, and you had to be on it mentally every day or every game when you're playing against that. I was lucky enough to play against people like Henry, Van Nistelrooy, Rooney, all them sorts of. But Zola, on the day that I played against him when he was at Chelsea, they had good Johnson and Zola. And it was when everybody used to play 4-4-2. Yeah. And he was the first one that played as that little 10, that little bloke in the hole. And we couldn't get anywhere near him. And we were like 3-0 down after 20 minutes at Stamford Bridge. And on his day, he was unbelievable.
Well, thank you for all your time.
No, pleasure.
Best of luck for the rest of the season.
Hopefully we'll be all right.
I can see us escaping with these new signings as well. Especially, I'm always very optimistic in everything, and I do genuinely believe someone like you who's honest, he's grounded. You know what passion is. You had much passion as a player. I have full faith that Sligo can make it out.
I'm glad you do. But listen, I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming over. Top class.